Hey everybody, it's Pax. We're here at last. The Feast of Hemlock Vale. I picked it up tonight. I'm going to do my quick opening and walkthrough of all the cards with some hot takes, I guess. Maybe some tepid takes at this point. We've all known the contents of the box for a bit. But anyways, we'll just dive right into it. So obviously the box art is like beautiful. I think that the aesthetics of this campaign are going to be really cool. I don't know. I think this is awesome. This kind of folk horror stuff is just super neat. So right off the bat, we've got an extra set of Bless and Curse tokens, as well as this Curse dial. Probably not going to use this myself, and I don't really see a need to punch this out. As much as I love punching stuff out, I don't see a need to punch it out. I would like to keep these in good condition for if I ever decide to get coin capsules. Now that my kids aren't so young, the volume of coin capsules is nowhere near the kind of concern that it used to be. Now the stuff that we're all here for, not this. The Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator Expansion. Insert here. Into the woods. Some fear had been gathering in me, perhaps because of the strangeness of my heritage, and the bleakness of the evening, and the queerness of the silence in that aged town of curious customs. H.P. Lovecraft, The Festival. Cool. Bless and Curse tokens, we know about that. Elusive keyword, that one's neat. If a ready enemy with the elusive keyword attacks or is attacked, after that attack resolves, the enemy immediately disengages from all investigators, moves to a connecting location with no investigators if able, and exhausts. Cool. And Bonded, which is also an old one. A couple of really good frequently asked questions, which I'll probably refer to as we go through some of the cards as necessary, and the credits. Fun, fun, fun. Now, the second half of the important stuff. The cards. Don't forget to do your recycling, folks. Beautiful investigator cards. Always look good. I always love just a little bit of extra detail you get to see in the backgrounds on these compared to sometimes what you see on the player cards. Okay, got a lot to get through, so let's get through it. Wilson Richards with Ad Hoc and Hasty Repairs. He's an interesting guy. I think he's pretty good. He's kind of weird. His ability kind of makes him a 3/4/4/3, and he's really difficult to build with at the moment, just because of the fact that you don't really have a nice one-handed tool that feels really good. But he is really cool. I think that he does an interesting flex thing where he flexes a little bit better than he does other stuff. I'm seeing that my camera isn't auto-focusing. Oh no! My choice in playmat is making it so it's constantly trying to focus on her face instead of the cards. Okay, quick playmat swap. Does that fix the problem? I don't know, probably not. Either way, Wilson is pretty cool. His weakness is pretty nasty. Ad Hoc is really good, but his deck building leaves a little bit to be desired. I really think that if Guardian ever gets a nice level 0 draw card in the vein of Lucky Cigarette Case, Rabbit's Foot, Empirical Hypothesis, maybe Empirical Hypothesis is a little bit of wishful thinking in terms of the quality of the card, but something like that will really send him into a really good spot. Right now, he draws a little bit slow, which is, it's typical for Guardian. You get your big impactful cards, but he's in a little bit of an awkward spot at level 0, and I find that tricky. When your level 0 deck is your tricky spot, that's always a little tough. After that is Kate, and she comes with her Flux Stabilizer and her 2 Currents, and her Failed Experiment. Now, I personally think that Kate is absolutely insane. She's just really strong. Her stat line's basically a 4/6/4/6. You get to move your clues from her to your assets that are tool or science traded. Your Flux Stabilizer starts inactive. When you put the first one on, you grab one of these from set aside, and it is silly. There's a lot of good science and tool cards. I know that maybe it's a little samey when you've gone too much of it, but you know, they're just it's a really good set of cards. And also her 0 to 1 insight kind of picks up quite a bit of slack. That being said, her failed experiment's really scary. If you're not careful about this, this will hit you similar to Shell Shock. But instead of Shell Shock just like hitting you for damage, or sorry, hitting you for horror based on Mark taking too much damage willingly, instead it makes you either take horror or like lose all your progress. And that is a very scary prospect. So be careful about the failed experiment. And as an FYI, Kate is going to be one of my investigators I play on my first run through of the campaign on this channel. Alessandra Sorci, she's really good. She's also really good. You know, if Winifred has shown us anything, it's that 0 to 5 rogue is pretty strong if you've got decent stats, and Alessandra has really nice stats and a good health and sanity line, a very strong ability that lets her get a bonus action. She's just got a lot going for her, and the fact that 0 to 5 cards with parlay is not very wide does not really matter. Beguile is really strong. Zamacona is annoying, but just pack a backstab and backstab him when he shows up and you'll be fine. Kohaku's a little strange, but he's also really strong. He's got that 4-4-3-1 stat line, which is like Marie's, but with the combat and agility swapped. And then this ability that lets you remove 2 blesses and curses to get an additional action is just absolute gas. It is so strong at rocketing your progress forward. Bonus actions are something that are a little hard to come by in Mystics, so really cool. Blessed cards 0 to 5, Cursed cards 0 to 5, Occult cards 0, Mystics 0 to 3. So you're not going to get anything like your Arcane Studies level 4, just like Marie doesn't. But I mean, I don't know. With the blessed and cursed cards that we have available, you've got a lot of interesting things you can do with them, moving away from 4 to 5 Mystic. The Book of Living Myths is really strong, but it does mean that you're tied up on your hand slots, and the Cursed and Blessed pool actually has a lot of hand slot importance, and we'll get to that later. The Weeping Yurei, I don't know, is tough. Aloof, Elusive, and Hunter. And then if you reveal any blessed tokens or cursed tokens, he just immediately attacks you and then walks away. This adds up quickly, and you need to have a plan to deal with them, or that horror is going to stack up really fast. Hank Samson, probably one of my new favorite investigators in the game. If you've been watching Daniel over on Quick Learner, he and I have been playing through Return to the Forgotten Age, and I've been playing as Hank Samson. Hank is just an absolute beast. The 5 combat, the ability to have damage or horror assigned to him from ally assets or investigators. It lets you do some really weird little things. The main thing to watch out for is to make sure that you use this 5/5 to its fullest, and this ability lets you do that. You don't want to take 5 damage and no horror, and suddenly when you go into your Resolute form, decide, oh shit, I'm actually a 9/6 or an 11/4. You know, if you're planning on doing combat, if you take all that damage, it's like, well, shit, now I've only really got 4 sanity to play with for the rest of the scenario. And I think it's useful to use all this up. And the big thing is another thing, you know, you can get to 4 damage and 4 horror on you, and to decide to play a turnout where you take a big hit, and use that to deal with the fact that, like, you know, assigning more than you have is fine. You heal everything back up and you're good. You don't have to put that on assets. Your investigator card can always put any amount of damage or horror on it from an attack or from an instance of damage. Now, one thing that we did miss in that campaign, unfortunately, is that his Elder Sign effect, once you become Resolute, which moves the damage from Hank to an asset you control on one side, or moving it from moving horror to an asset you control, is that it's not optional. I didn't realize that as we were playing through, and so I think you are going to be looking for, if you're looking to be flexible between the 2 forms, which I think is the stronger thing to do, is to try to be flexible between going assistant or Warden, depending on what the board state's asking for. That also means that you're going to want to focus on a couple of cards that have both Sanity and Horror pools to make sure that you can make use of that. Stout-Hearted is an incredibly strong card. This is like a heal mixed with just being awesome. It's just an incredibly strong card. Moving 2 damage or horror as damage when you engage, really good. Where's Paw can be a nightmare, but it can also kind of be nothing if you pull someone easy enough. Or if the board state happens to be in a space where pulling an enemy at a connecting location can't happen, then he just spawns with you. Guardian. Ancestral Token. We're going to be a bit more rapid fire after this point. Really good. Huge Bless Enabler, super strong. If you're doing Bless and Guardian, you have Ancestral Token. The only time you don't is if you're not a Guardian that's killing, like Carolyn. Cleaning Kit, maybe a little expensive for what it does. If you think about Venturer is a 4-cost 2/2 that gets 3 uses to shove around as supplier ammo, but it's only once per turn, and it's in a more valuable slot than the Cleaning Kit is. So I'm optimistic about this card. I think it's going to be reasonable and good in some cases. The Katana is a really interesting card. I said this in the Card of the Day thread that Veronica posted on the Mythos Buster server, that it kind of, you read it and you go, oh. And you just kind of get into this thought pattern of trying to think of how the hell to make this work. I don't know that any of the ways to make this work are necessarily that good, but it's certainly interesting, and there are ways to do it. So I'll be interested to see what the community comes up with in the future. Auda is one that me and Philian had talked about on our earlier foray through some of the early spoilers in spoiler season. For 2 cost, only 1 charge, and getting the blessed tokens once per round, removing alert, aloof, elusive, and retaliate from a guy is actually pretty valuable. It's just niche. So again, this is a very big plan around. The Wolf Mask is very strong. This will be at least a 1 of in basically every fighter for a while. The only character I imagine maybe not taking this in is Mark, and maybe Nathaniel, but even then, not having one probably feels like a mistake. Absolution is just a really weird card. I love that it's X-costed, and so you can kind of like dump as much into this as you need to when it happens to come around. Or otherwise, as 2 wild icons. It's like, this is, I think, in my mind, this is a well-designed event because it's like, yeah, you committed if you don't want to do this, right? There's a lot of events that have a weird effect that kind of just don't seem to do anything in a lot of cases. But then they don't have good icons to compensate for that. And I think this is really good for, being an incredibly expensive way to add a bunch of blessed tokens and maybe get a bunch of healing out. It's like, okay, well, if that's not going to fire off, I get a double willpower. I like that. I'm not convinced that Guided by Faith is particularly good. It's really good once you've gotten, your Favor of the Sun, but I just am not super convinced about this. I am interested in it being a spirit card, though. With that Ancestral Token idea in, like, Nathaniel, maybe this has legs, but I'm not convinced. Hold Up is, like, goofy as hell, and I have a really dumb pet Eldritch Tongue Mark deck that it seems really funny in, but really funny is a thing that cards are allowed to be, right? Task Force, I think this card is generally quite good, but demanding. The nice thing about cards like this is that, it has a base effect, right? You get to do the action ability or the activate ability on an asset without paying one of the costs. You get to move, you get to discover a clue, and you can assign that however you want on your team. But notably, this is a level 0 event, but as you get better activates across your team, the value of this card rises, right? Getting a machete swing, fine. Getting your rogue to do a sawed-off shotgun attack against someone that might have taken you a while to kill, and it's like, you know what, I'm just going to shove over and let them deal with that. It scales to your experience. Kind of like how Practice Makes Perfect does with skill cards, but definitely to a lesser extent. I wouldn't put this in the same category as Practice Makes Perfect. Tinker, just a good card. Just a good card. Not as slow as a lot of the other things, but a bit more conditional, right? Tool Belt, you can play it whenever, and you can just slide something under it. Tinker, you've got to get the card out and then play this on it. And so if you're already full up, and you don't have this yet, then you're screwed. And if you have this, but you don't have your things, then it's not doing anything and you can't really use it. It's just languishing in hand. So, you know, there's trade-offs, but I think it's good. Purified was one of my spoiler cards. If you watched the spoiler season, I think Purified's really strong. I talked about it in my video. It's strong when you put the effort in. Hand-eye coordination, to me, this is just like their attempt at balancing knowledge is power, but for Guardians. So, fine. Thank you. Appreciate it. Strong-armed is really good. You know, level 1 Vicious Blow never sucks. A level 1 Vicious Blow that only works for melee and ranged is a little weird, but a level 1 Vicious Blow that lets you take a damage to repull tokens, really strong. Really strong. Strong-armed, one might say. Second Wind, level 2. I don't know what this is doing in this pack with Hank and Wilson, but it's a decent upgrade. Notably, it loses the Then, so you always get to draw a card, even if you haven't healed the full amount. Cleaning Kit level 3, I think, is pretty good. I think for 3 experience, I would have liked to have seen this cost drop down to 2. But as is, you know, you're getting a +2 to an ammo spent once every 4 turns for 4 turns. You know, it's certainly not bad, and again, it is a convincing card, like the original. I think it is, like, fine to good. If you're doing weapons, like, you can do a lot worse than getting a bunch of +2s on a stick. Especially where it lets you kind of have those +2s be on some of your best things. The level 4 Blessed Blade is just really strong. This is the upgrade that Blessed Blade has needed. Blessed Blade 0 is so swingy and dumb. I'm so glad this doesn't say that it deals +2 damage if you reveal a Blessed token. Like, oh my god. That being said, it is generally just quite a good weapon. I'm glad that it kind of dethrones Time Worn Brand for just a general purpose weapon. You know, cheaper, less experience, but you don't get that big power attack, which is really good. It's a convincing reason to take Time Worn Brand, so I'm happy about this. I think this is neat. The Eyes of Volusia and the Blade of Yoth are a very strange card. I don't know what to make of this. I'm fairly certain it's very good. I just don't know that it ever goes in any of my solo or two-handed decks. It seems a little slow for that. But in a larger play group, I am positive this is really strong in a more supportive Guardian than I'm afforded to play. Flurry of Blows is kind of goofy, but I think, like, it's fine. It's fine. You know, you get extra attacks. Are they good? They're fine. This is one of those cards, I think, that falls in the range of being fine because it's like a cool thing you can do. And, like, you just don't spend the 5 XP on this until you are in a space where spending the 5 XP on this is something you can afford as a luxury. And Miracle Wish and Evanescent Ascension. This card is really strange. I think it's also, like, fine to good. Getting a lot of Blessed tokens is strange. It's nice that you only have to place up to the number of X resources, which is the number of Blesses revealed. Like, you don't have to, if you reveal a chain of 3, you don't have to put all 3 on. You can just put 2 if that's all you can afford. But Evanescent Ascension is, like, kind of strange, where it's like you can only get this Elder Sign effect when you would fail, and also if it doesn't give you a big enough modifier, you don't pass the test. So it's like an okay card, and I think it kind of falls in the same realm as Flurry of Blows, but maybe a bit more convincingly, like, good when you're really building into it. I think Flurry of Blows just, like, works with a normal thing. This is, like, something you're building around, making sure your deck can get. And again, when an investigator at your location, it's a support thing, right? And this is something that, in my experience, I can't make it fit in my decks. Not because it's a bad card, because it's just a little bit too niche for 1 to 2 player. Moving on to Seeker. Chemistry Kit is good. It's an action investigate on an accessory, which I think is strong. The fail by 2 to discard it is a little bit of a bummer, but the rest of these are just going to happen eventually. If you're testing 4 up, you're going to get a free clue once in a while. You're going to get card draw once in a while. You're going to get your resources once in a while. It's just a good card, I think, especially for Kate. This is very important in Kate. Dr. Charles West is like a weird we have Alice Luxley at home thing. I don't think that he's a particularly good card, but again, the additional hand slot is a thing where it's like, how many things can I actually afford to play this game? And the bonus damage after investigating, again, it's not something that comes up a lot in 1 to 2 player. Alice's ability is already quite marginal for me, so that isn't particularly convincing. Microscope's really good. It's really good on characters who just want to be able to get some clues every once in a while and can afford the hand slot. You know, if you're a Roland with guns and a machete, you can hold on to this, and every once in a while you get to pick up 3 clues. So, fine. Picking up 3 clues, does that solve his cover-up? Mouse Mask, not as strong as the Wolf Mask for Guardians, but still quite good. I think that this one probably has one of the harder recharge conditions, but has very good stats assigned with it. So I'm glad that it has one of the harder recharge conditions. That being said, I think there's more decks where this isn't a card that I'm saying always needs to be in there. Like I'm thinking, you know, basically any 5-stat Seeker. I'm already running enough boosts. They don't need an extra +2, and they really probably don't need the willpower either. The Ravenous Mikinid, I'm just going to put him to the side. Control variable. Working a hunch when you reveal a curse is fine. It's not amazing. I think that the cheapness is fine. The worse icons is a little disappointing. I almost would have preferred this to be a double icon of, like, not intellect, I think. And also, after Uninvestigator reveals a curse during a skill test, it doesn't even need to be during an Investigate. You can do this while your fighter is fighting someone. Testing Sprint, this is, you know, level 0 Deciphered Reality. It's fine. It's cool. It's really strong on Amanda if you don't auto-fail the very first Investigate you get. But again, 1 to 2 player, having a whole bunch of locations revealed, this would be more of a tech card for scenarios where all the locations start revealed, for me. Thorough Inquiry, I think, is just a strong card. It's, you know, 2 cost, 5 cards over 2 actions. It's a good alternate to Preposterous Sketches, and it's got really strong icons. This is a good card. This is going to be in decks. Throw the Book at them, hilarious. Just hilarious. Just absolutely hilarious. I don't think this does anything particularly that I'm particularly interested in, but it's funny. I think it's absolutely one of those cards that's allowed to exist because we want to see an art of Daisy slapping this big-ass spider with a book. Transmogrify is like an incredibly good card, I think. This is probably one of the most exciting cards for Seekers in this pack. Getting an evade, so like evade events, enemy management events, solo Seekers, lifeblood. That's what you gotta do. But being able to do an evade and then also leave a hunter enemy behind because they can't move anymore, and then also get the clue with the evade, is just a lot packed into one card. And this also, I think, works really well in higher player counts. Just, again, leaving a hunter enemy behind is really strong. Well-funded, I think, is like reasonable to good. Like, I think this is more of a low, you know, I don't have a lot of cards, and so I need to put this in my deck kind of thing. I think it's extremely funny that Rex can't be well-funded because it is a fortune. Gabriel Carrillo is pretty good. He's definitely a strong card. You know, he costs the same as Milan. He gives the same stat boost as Milan, and instead of money every investigate, you just get a card at the start of your turn for every curse token added to the bag. And he's also a 2/1, which is, I think, it tends to be a pretty good soak pool for Seekers. Jeremiah Kirby kind of showed that. And I think that 1 curse for 1 card is actually just really good. Steady-Handed is a really exciting card. Limit 1 per investigator, and then you get this succeed by fixing. It really, you know, a couple of the science cards really care about the succeed by range, and this makes that work better. But the healing is also really neat. And obviously the synergy with Katana, also really neat. I think Steady-Handed is a good card. You'll probably see one of this card in many decks. Fine-Tuning is a card that is really cool, but also like really combo-y in a way that's difficult to, without sitting down and really getting into a whole bunch of things of like, what's a card that I can't ready normally that I'd love to be able to ready? Without doing that exercise, this seems pretty fair. It's not fast, it costs 2, but you get to use a card twice a turn that you only got to use once a turn, so probably good. Esoteric Method, I think that this card is probably really, really cracked. This seems really good. 4 wild icons on a skill, already good. As a way to load the bag with curses, this is really nuts as a practiced card. Amanda, if you want to play Cryptic Grimoire, you absolutely can. You will have so many curses. The Prismatic Spectacles, I think, are actually just straight up good. Adding a curse to get a +2 to an investigate, and then if you reveal a curse and succeed, you exhaust it to discover an additional clue, which, to be clear, it doesn't say if you succeed here, but the way additional works in this game is there has to be an instance of discovering a clue for it to add anything. I think this is just a strong card. I think getting +2 skill value for this test to delay getting -2 later is a good trade-off. If you already want to do Curse, and frankly, kind of pretty good if you don't want to do Curse either. Confound is one of these high-level parlays, the 3 experience. I think that this is just quite good as well. It's a little expensive for what it does, but like getting 2 clues while you're evading someone is really neat. And then the like double evade where they get evaded for 2 turns is actually pretty strong. It's kind of an underappreciated effect. Microscope level 4 is just really strong. It loses the exhaust on the successful evasion or defeating thing. So, you know, eat your heart out, Kaimani, I guess. The double investigate lets you spend an extra evidence to gather 4 clues for that investigation, and also goes all the way up to +6. Like, just a really cool card. Okay, the Mikinid. I know a lot of people are like really hot on this card, and like, I think it's fine. It's pretty good. Solving it's not too hard, obviously. The uncanny growth is a little weird. Like, you kind of need to put a lot into this at the start of the campaign to get this solved, I think. But just don't pull bad tokens, and you solve it in one go, and you're fine. But then the upgrades, because they're a limit per one per, I think that they're going in a direction of the researched cards being, like, they're already a little stronger from how you need to unlock them for their XP, right? They're a little stronger than their XP might suggest. But I think that these are, like, anywhere from reasonable to good, with like an error on one of them. The Sentient Strain, like the whole breach the door, canceling every encounter card, fine, whatever. Like, that's, to me, that sounds like an exploit more than a Nazi strength thing. The Ravenous Mikinid with the Carnivorous Strain, I think is like good, but I think that he's mostly there for like deleting acolytes and ghouls and like 1 to 3 health guys, because like, do you really want to need to be succeeding by like 6 on an uncanny growth to delete a mindless dancer? You probably can, but like that's more you're putting into it. And it's like, it's a one of, so like, what if you don't even see this? Like, you will see it, fine, you're a seeker, but like, maybe you see it after you draw one of those guys and they're on you. So it's good, it's very good. But, you know, just by virtue of being a one of with traits you can't really search, it's fine. The Nurturing Strain, on the other hand, I think is really cool, because it makes you care a lot more about how much you succeed by with the uncanny growth so that you don't accidentally kill it off, moving the damage. And also, it's a way to move damage and therefore heal Hank, which is the second player I'm going to be bringing on my playthrough of Hemlock Vale. Did I not mention that earlier? It's going to be Kate and Hank, so pretty sure Kate's going to have the Nurturing Strain. On to Rogue. We've got Bianca de Katz. I'm not too hot on her. She, the one of ally that you have to do tests to get a bunch of money off of. It's like, yeah, there's a nice upper limit on it, but this looks annoying. I guess she's like, if you have Gregory, it's like, okay, I can have like kind of a third Gregory if I'm good at passing agility tests. So, okay, fine. Maybe that's reasonable. Blackmail File, I think, is a really interesting card, but I'm not convinced it's particularly good. I am interested in trying this, though. I feel like this maybe puts me in a spot where I can ever try one of those Sniper Leo decks, where it's like, okay, maybe I can parlay to just make them disengage from me, and then I can just shoot them. The British Bulldog, this is the one that swaps out combat for agility optionally. +1 damage. When I was reading this, I was wondering to myself, like, I mentioned this again in the Mythos Busters Discord, does this obsolete the, like, original Derringer? And I think the answer is no, but it's no for, like, a really narrow range of characters. And I also think it's no because rogues have historically avoided getting any +1 agility allies within the faction. And I think that that means that, like, if you're gonna do fighting, then Lonnie and a Derringer kind of pushes you a little higher than the British Bulldog does. So, really cool card, pretty strong. Fake Credentials is neat, but again, it's one of those cards where, like, you have to have an ally or an enemy on the table to make use of it, and floating enemies on the table just makes me super nervous in 1 to 2 player. A couple bad pulls and you can be so buried that it's hard to come back from. I don't think it's bad, though. I think it's pretty good. Fox Mask, I thought this was going to be really hard to replenish the offerings on, and it's not easy, but it happens a lot more than I thought it would. Daniel's been playing Parallel Monterey Jack, and he's had a Fox Mask that he's been getting into play for free, because it's a charm with Parallel Monterey Jack, and yeah, +2 Intellect and +2 agility is a very good pairing, and replenishing one after you move out of a location that has an enemy at it, really good, really good. I see this being more of a 2-of kind of thing for rogues. They like to get big skill bonuses. The Scrimshaw Charm, that's the card of the day today on the Mythos Busters Discord at the time of recording. Adding 1 to 3 curses for 2 to 4 resources. If you need the curses, I think that's actually a pretty good card. But I don't know who needs the curses and has this accessory slot available. But you know, if you need the curses, if you want the curses, gaining 4 resources a turn is going to fund a lot of shenanigans. Bank Job, like Thorough Inquiry, I think is just a strong card. It's a 2 cost, gain 8 for 2 actions and distribute it across the team. It's kind of, I know a lot of people are going to compare this to Faustian, but to me, a lot of the time I just assume not bother fucking around with curses if I'm not doing curse stuff. And so any of my decks where Faustian is just there because it's one of the better rogue economy cards, Bank Job's probably just going to replace it, and we'll see how that goes. False Surrender is really neat. I don't know that I love it, but it seems like it's kind of like solving a slightly different problem to Sleight of Hand in a different way. Or maybe approximately the same problem as Sleight of Hand, but in a different way. I'm not sure, but I like it. It's fine. I think it's one of the neater parlays. Just getting that card in play without taking an attack of opportunity is really nice. And then that's the first pile done with Grift here. This card is like really strong, I think. It does have like a really bad lower limit of gaining no money and being attacked. But that's like just embracing rogue gameplay. Gaining 6, pulling your Elder Sign as skids and gaining another 2. Like, who doesn't love that shit, man?
Hey, it's Editing Booth Packs. Something fucked up in my recording. This card fucking sucks. It's Editing Booth Packs again. Another fuck up in the recording. This card's really cool.
Vamp's really cool, but the higher version's a lot better. Testing 3 and doing one of these effects is like the ultimate in flexibility. I've played this in Winifred. I did a sample test of a 19 XP Parlay Winifred deck. This willpower icon is really strong in her, and it is so easy to do most of these. If you've got wilds in your deck, you can get this one Doom off if you really need it. I really like Diabolical Luck. It's kind of just super neat. Turning a curse into a +2 effectively by committing this from hand when you've revealed it, that's neat.
Editing Booth Packs here. Lightfoot's really cool. I'm glad that it says Trick on it, because if it had Rita on it without Trick, I'd be really mad. The British Bulldog upgrade is a surprisingly standard gun upgrade, but it's really good. The base card's really good, and this is really good too. Okay, this is the last edit. Thanks, bye.
Snitch level 2 here. After you succeed at a skill test while parlaying, 2 clues from among your location connecting locations. This is basically look what I found for any rogue parlaying deck. It's good. You play this if you're parlaying, ever. Bewitching's a really interesting card. I don't know what to make of it yet. Daniel had this in his Jack, and it was really neat for getting a couple of his parlay trick cards that are all based around enemies out of his opening hand and mulligan and early turns, and letting him search through his deck to find them, or just draw these off once he's already past that point. So that was really neat. Hey everybody, it's Pax from tomorrow. Had to go to bed. Dirty Deeds. I think this is a really cool and strong card. It's a little expensive on the XP. It's got great icons, but you're really here for the effect on this one. Searching your deck for an illicit asset, playing it, and then using an ability on it. Super strong. Doesn't provoke attacks of opportunities. You know, it is slow, yes, but I'm really interested in trying this out alongside Bewitching. I didn't mention this, I don't think. Trying it out in Trish with a bunch of the researched effects, searching your deck, adding a bunch of searches to Trish is just super interesting. So I'm interested to see how this one turns out. Vamp level 3, I mentioned this one's really, really quite strong. Doing as many of these effects at just 2 difficulty, you know, if you've got Fine Clothes in your deck, it's nuts. The 2 wild icons is just gravy on top. Just incredibly strong card. If you're doing parlay stuff, you have that. Fake Credentials upgrade, I think, is actually a pretty massive upgrade over the original, but again, it kind of falls in an awkward spot for me, where I'm like, I don't really like leaving characters on the board, so this is going to be relegated to Alessandra for a bit until I've played with it a little bit more. There's one thing that I absolutely love about this card, though, is the absolutely silly, like, almost wig quality that Trish has on the art here. I love the idea of the spy having a big dumb wig. Stir the Pot level 5. Big XP increase for a very weird marginal effect on the parlay itself. I think this one kind of falls in the same realm as a couple of the other ones we've been looking at, where it's like, yeah, you can dump a bunch of XP into this when your deck is already functioning, and you just want to do the thing you were already doing, maybe like a little tiny bit better, but this really isn't an insane effect. It's just fine. On to Mystic. Cat Mask, I think that this one is just really, 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 really strong. The willpower and combat is a really good combination for Mystics. There's so many that care about combat nowadays. There's increasingly more and more that cares about combat. And the replenishing too with the Doom is just really nice and happens very often. The Rod of Carnamagos, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. Obviously, the Rots are all very strong at level 0, only having one of this, and it randomly attaching one of them is kind of hokey. If you get the one you don't like, then that sucks. If you get the one you do like, that's amazing. You know, Ember Rot is a nice Keyforge reference, is generally always good, I think. So using this as like an enemy management tool in a class that maybe historically doesn't care too much about using up their hand slots, a one of, you know, drop it in, see what happens. Speak to the Dead, I think that this is kind of prohibitively slow. I'm not convinced about this one at all. I love the art, I think the art's really cool, but yeah, I don't have good things to say about this card. Not excited about it. It seems really slow to me. Wicked of Fame is one that was a spoiler during the spoiler season. This card is just really strong. You know, 3 curse tokens for +6 to an attack and then replenishing a charge. Whew, just real good stuff. Antediluvian Hymn, I think, is maybe a little understated, and I think that it's okay. In 1 to 2 player, I'd be happy to try this out and see what happens. But I'm not, you know, I think people are maybe underrating it, but probably not by much. Drain Essence is a really neat card. I kind of like it. It just seems a little, there's a risk of it not doing a whole lot. The parlay is like good, yeah, if you're doing your fine clothes stuff, but generally speaking, a 2 damage spell event that isn't actually giving you like a big boost to your test, it's fine. It's fine, right? It's a little conditional. You have to have damage on you for this to do anything. So the conditionality of this one makes me a little more hesitant on it than I think a lot of other people are at. Accursed was another one of the cards in the spoiler season. I think this is just a really cool card. Just add a bunch of curses, treat them as zeros. Get me some more curses in the bag. Mesmeric Influence, I think, is probably like incredibly strong for 1 XP. You know, a willpower and a wild means it can be committed to any of your spells, and ignoring keywords or location effects that would trigger during the test is just really good. You know, turning off someone's retaliate, turning off someone's alert. All around a strong card, and has the practice trait to boot. Olive McBride, level 2, is probably one of the most anticipated cards in the pack for me. The double willpower icon's nice when your second copy is not doing anything for you. And this extra 1 on the number of revealed chaos tokens is really strong. The level 2 Rod of Carnamagos is kind of a different story from the level 1. It is very, very strong. You might still only want to have 1 copy of this. I don't know. I don't know if it's strong enough to warrant having 2 copies. You know, the icon on the card itself is bad. So for an extra 2 XP, it's like, yes, you're getting it more often, but you're not getting anything if it's not very useful. But when you've got all these curses, man, that just totally debuffs an enemy like crazy. Call to Beyond, 3 curse tokens for fully replenishing an asset you control with uses, charges, or uses secret, not a spell. It is any type of asset that uses charges or secrets. And then immediately getting to use that card without paying an action cost is really neat. I see this potentially being really cool in Daisy, but I haven't put a lot of thought into this. I'm really interested to see what people do with this one, because I think it's really strong. I haven't really thought about many of the applications for it yet. I'm just going to quickly go all over these. This is an incredibly strong upgrade. This is an incredibly strong upgrade. This is an incredibly strong upgrade. With those out of the way, this is not a very good card. It's very slow. It provokes an attack of opportunity awkwardly. I'm not in love with this. I love the art on this one, though. The art on this one is so fucking cool. The Key of Solomon was one of my preview cards for the season, and I think that this is just a generally really strong card. A tome that a blessed, cursed, and tome item that does all these effects is very versatile. Goes in a lot of decks, and yeah, super interested to see how this one turns out. The Seal of the Elders is like a really weird card to me. I like it a lot. And you've got the Keeper of the Key and the Servant of Brass to go along with it. I'm not convinced it's great. It can be really good if you build into it really hard. But I'm mostly thinking that this is kind of like just an okay card. And I'm okay with, you know, a big, huge summon being just an okay card. The Summoned Hound kind of fits in that same realm where it's like it's really just fine unless you're really building into it. And that's okay. That's fine. I think that both of these are really strong cards, and the fact that there are ways to heal these, even though they're not allies, is really interesting if you want to get your mileage out of them. But I think if you just have 2 copies of Seal of the Elders, if you summon each of these guys once, you're gold. Matchbox is a very strong card. I don't have a lot more to say about it than that. This card is very good. Pelchment's really interesting. I haven't found a spot that I'm happy to fit it into a deck yet. But I've been reading some stuff that other people have been experiencing and actually having a pretty good time with it. So I might have to try it out with the improvised events in like Ashcan Pete or something like that. I worry about this having counter synergy early with the cards that like help you discard things. Like, you know, like I said, Ashcan Pete, you can discard cards from your hand to ready your assets, but if your hand size is lower, then you have fewer options for that, right? But maybe you just run a bit more churn. I'm not sure. I haven't put a ton of thought into that one yet. Pitchfork's a lot better than I thought it was. For 1 combat, +2 damage, you lose control of it. The big thing about this is that, like, if you compare it to this Sledgehammer, which takes 2 actions to get the +2 damage attack, if you fail that Sledgehammer swing, it's catastrophic. If you fail a single Pitchfork attack, you just get to try it again. And yeah, that's what you have +1 combat on that for. I really like it in Hank. I imagine I'll really like it in Yorick. I'll probably not mind it so much in Calvin, but I think for anyone that's like 3 and under, I'm a bit more skeptical towards it. But, you know, live and learn, oops, Catastrophe, that stuff all works towards making that kind of playstyle functional. Sparrow Mask is really strong. I'm also playing this in Hank. The damage and horror is really easy to trigger, and you get these 2 defensive stats. If you can shove this into a character that's really making use of the willpower or the agility, this is probably like, you know, Agnes is with a Forbidden Knowledge just goes nuts with this, right? Like, you pretty much don't need any other skill boosts for the rest of the game if you're using your intellect. Excuse me, willpower. Elaborate Distraction is a pretty cool double. I think this one's pretty good. Wester had mentioned using this in the Dream Eaters, and so that seems really cool. But getting like an automatic evade off for everyone, for the whole team, I think this might be a big Preston thing. That seems really neat to me. Push to the Limit I tried out in Hank. I think because my Hank deck just didn't have enough weapons while I had 2 copies of Push to the Limit, I dropped this for more weapons. And I was playing on a limited card pool, so you know, the deck wasn't as refined as I'd like it to be. I think this is a very good card. I think that you need a lot of card draw to make this a very good card. But kind of like how I had mentioned with Task Force, this is one of those cards that like deceptively scales up with your deck. When your action abilities on assets are better, you know, I used Push to the Limit on an old hunting rifle, and yes, it jammed, but if it hadn't jammed, that would have been a really strong Push to the Limit play. Stall for Time, another amazing art in this set. I'm just really happy with a lot of the really iconic art pieces that are getting used up and put on cards. The card itself is like fine. I don't really know. I haven't thought a ton about what this is doing. You know, it's got tactic, it's got trick. I don't know. There's certainly something going on with this that's really neat, but not disengaging from an enemy to evade them, but having it not be an evade is like, at least you get to choose the lower of their fight or evade. I guess that's the point, is that this is something you will just be able to do. And that's really good in Patrice, so maybe I'll have to try this out in Patrice sometime. Wrong Place, Right Time was a little underwhelming for me in the Hank deck that I was playing, but again, with the limited card pool, I really just didn't have guys to shove stuff onto. And I only had 1 copy of it. I kept having to commit it because it's got great icons. But I think what this really has going for it is the fact that it's a super niche ability with this double thing going on, and those really strong icons means that, like, when this works, it really works, and when it doesn't, you got really strong commits out of it. Longshot's really cute. I like it. A lot of people are really hot on it. I'm a little bit less hot on it just because it doesn't provide any skill bonuses. I know a lot of people kind of undervalue, or at least to my mind, they undervalue skill bonuses on skill cards. And I actually found this to be kind of annoying, where it was like, oh shit, you know, yeah, I've got the long shot and I can deal a bonus damage, but I actually don't have that great odds of hitting. Even on Hank, you know, swinging with a Pitchfork for 6 with a long shot committed to it to deal 4 damage. It's like, yeah, but this is a 4-fight enemy. Shit. So, it's good. It's good. I don't think it's the best, but it's good. On the other hand, I think Hatchet is also good for a 1 XP weapon. It is about as good as it can be, I think. You know, if you want to make this better, you gotta sacrifice what it says up in this top corner. So that's fine to me. I think there's a really strong Hank build where you have a fire axe, a hatchet, a Madame Lebranche, and you get to like swing your hatchet or throw your hatchet, swing your fire axe, use Madame Lebranche, and swing your fire axe again. If you've got 2 hatchets, the 2 hatchet swings and then the fire axe. So I think there's a cool thing you can do with this. You probably just don't have to, though. I think this is better for standalone play where you might be building a deck on a budget and you want to be doing other things more interesting than just packing a huge weapon. Persistence is my ambassador card over on Mythos Buster, so I'm not going to get too much into this until I've had a chance to play around with it. I think it's fine. I'm not in love with it. It's functional. It's, you know, it's splitting an unexpected courage in half. There's ways that can be good and there's ways that can be bad. So we'll see how that one shakes out when I've gotten time to play it. Devil is goated. Fire Axe level 2, a lot of people are not super excited about, but I'm going to be honest, I actually quite like this upgrade a lot. The second copy, Fire Axe, is always kind of bummy. You know, if you're sitting at low resources a lot, that extra icon is actually pretty good. And frankly, I think that the assets becoming fast is nutsy strong. For 2 XP, I don't know. I don't know how much better you could make this, again, without really messing around with what it says up here. I think this is a really good card. Hunting Jacket is another card that I'm going to toss into the really good section. A body slot for 2/2, 2 cost, 2 XP, lots of 2s on here. But then you got these 3 cards attached to it that are going to pay out 6, and then you draw them back once you've defeated it. This card is super strong. I'm super excited to try this out in Tommy. Now, the Mariner's Compass, I'm actually less excited about than the Fire Axe, and the reason for that is more like a not understanding the play pattern that results in this feeling useful. Like, to me, when I'm using the Compass, I've used it in the past in Wendy, where, you know, I stacked 100 million modifiers and I was passing every test, and it's like, okay, sure. If I fail, then I get to ready this and I get to try it again. That's perfectly fine. But, like, in everyone else and all the rest of the survivors that only have like 2 intellect, if I dump a bunch of money into this test and I fail, I don't have any money to dump into the test again. So what am I doing with this? I don't know. To me, I find this one a little confusing, but much like the Fire Axe, I like the double icon printed on it. You get one of these out, you get your Fire Axe out, you see your double icon, and you can commit your second Mariner's Compass to that failed test. Sure, that starts to make more sense. But without a whole lot of commits, I don't quite get it. Survival Technique is a really niche card, and it's cool, but I'm not in love with it. It does some very interesting things, but it's fine. Heat Faith level 2, I've seen a couple people call this a really boring upgrade, and I mean, yes, it is a boring upgrade. The extra icon's fine, but you know, if you're including this, you probably need the blesses more than you need the icons. But notably, you know, when you lower the cost of a card to 0, that removes like all opportunity cost of playing it. When a card costs 1, you need to wait for an upkeep or something like that to play it, or you need to spend an action to get a resource and then you can play it. Or any of the multiple ways you can just go from 0 to 1. But when a card costs 0, it's always playable, and I think that is well worth 2 XP. Providential is a really strange card, and I kind of have a hard time imagining it outside of, say, Calvin or maybe Stella, specifically because of Stella's extra health and sanity pools. The 8/8, it's like, yeah, this could get you to be some pretty big bless adders, but if you're looking at this as a bless adder, I think it's maybe not that great. If you're looking at it as a way to pass skill tests while adding blesses, it's maybe like a bit better. These are actually pretty good icons, but it's just fine, I think. Token of Faith is certainly a massive upgrade. I've never been a huge fan of the level 0 one. I've basically refused to play it just out of principle of me not thinking it's very good. But this, you know, live and learn on a stick of just trying the test again after you failed is really neat. But you do have to pull the curse or the elder thing. Excuse me, the auto fail. If you don't do that, you don't get to do this effect. So if you're not playing with curses, this is only auto fail protection. If you're playing with curses, this is a bit more protection. I think it's a really neat card. Super strong, super excited for it. Dark Horse Permanent, really good card. There's not a whole lot to say about this. You know, removing 3 cost in it from being in your deck is just a really strong upgrade to that whole archetype. Did it need it? Not particularly. Am I excited to try it out? Yes. Eldritch Tongue, I'm not, you know, I know a lot of people are really excited with this and people have been posting really great results with it. I always get really hesitant about remove from game effects in this game because you cycle your deck and you will see stuff again. But, you know, you don't need to play motivational speech more than once. Or more than, you know, 4 times, I suppose. So there's certainly cards that you will like to remove with this, and there's certainly cards I think that you basically do not ever want to remove with this. You know, if you're an Alessandra and you're cycling your deck, It's like, yeah, maybe you can remove Grift. Once you've got enough money, do you really need to spend more actions getting money at the end of the scenario? But you're never using this on Snitch if Snitch is, play events with Parlay from your discard pile as if they're in their hand. That probably works. Snitch is your bread and butter for getting clues. So there's certain things you're happy to remove and certain things you're not happy to remove, and I haven't wrapped my head around what it is that you're happy to remove and what you're not happy to remove. Bide your time is a double of all time. You spend 2 actions to not spend 2 actions, and then you get those. I mean, look, you get those actions back the next turn. It might be interesting, Amanda. Well dressed, super strong, practiced. 4 icons if you're doing a parlay. If you're doing parlay stuff, you probably have fine clothes. You might not need this. But if your stats aren't that great, you'll love it. Dawnstar is another card that's like just super exciting from this pack that's kind of like understated in its power. Only 1 XP, 1 cost, 1 wild icon. Fast, after revealing chaos tokens during a skill test at your location, ignore the curse modifiers, and then for each curse token ignored, deal damage to an enemy at your location. Just a huge cursed lucky for a fighter that turns those curses into extra damage is like really cool. I'm excited about that card. Occult Reliquary is a very flexible relic hunter, but also for arcane slots and hand slots, and the fact that it's flexible between all 3 is super strong. Getting towards the end here, the Broken Diadem and the Twilight Diadem. I don't love this card, but I'm happy with where it landed on the balance. I think for 5 XP, a big 5 XP neutral card should be a little underwhelming in my opinion. I'm on record of not liking Time Warden Brand having been as powerful as it was for as long as it was, which is a part of why I like the Blessed Blade in this set so much. It's nice to see Guardians kind of get something that feels better than a neutral card. But I think that this is like Blessing of Isis. It's like a poor man's Blessing of Isis, but it's more like a blurst man's Blessing of Isis. Which is cool. I think it works and it's neat. Last but not least is all of these weaknesses. I think that these are a hateful masterpiece by Duke. The -1 sanity and -1 health hurts so bad for some characters. The emergency exit button of, oh god, I absolutely cannot discard my accessory, let me just shuffle this back into my deck and take a horror is like fine, but I imagine these being nightmares, generally speaking. But that's good. I like when a weakness hurts me. When a weakness hurts me, that feels like the game is doing what it's advertising itself as doing. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.